Okay, so today we are going to do an August wrap-up of all the books that we have read this past month. And you're going to go ahead and start first, because I always go first. So, it's your turn.
I thought it was ladies first, but whatever.
Well, that makes sense then.
I read fewer books than her as usual. Only, let's see, 4. My first one that I read was, well, I actually haven't finished this one. I'm like 3/4 of the way through it, but the Demon Haunted World. Anyway, this is a very dense book. As I said before, it's nonfiction. He covers a lot of topics, mostly having to do with science and technology and where that's headed. How we're both progressing forward and backwards at the same time in certain aspects. So I haven't finished it, but it's compelling. Maybe I'll make a book video on it separately, talking about it. I don't know. There's a lot to unpack in this. So I haven't finished that. I'm almost done with it. Hopefully in the next 3 or 4 days I'll finish it. The next one I read was Norse Mythology. I really like this book. So basically what Gaiman did was do a bunch of research, and he had some help, and he rewrote the mythologies. So they're basically a bunch of mini stories or short stories that have an overarching narrative to them, which leads, of course, to Ragnarok. Anybody who knows anything about Norse mythology has heard of Ragnarok and what happens there. But most people mistake Norse mythology for ending after Ragnarok, but it actually doesn't end. It's a cycle of death and rebirth, much like what you see in Buddhism and the Wheel of Samsara, suffering and things like that. So life, death, rebirth, that cycle. Really good. I thought it was pretty entertaining. It was a quick read. I probably read it in a week and a half, and that was just reading it here and there. The stories are short. They're entertaining. They're faithful to the text, like the prose Edda and the poetic Edda, and one other. Anyway, if you have any interest in mythology or you like Gaiman, it's in his style. I enjoyed it. If I was going to rate this out of 5, I would say a 4 out of 5 or a 4.5 out of 5.
Nice. Oh yeah, we are doing stuff.
I mean, you could really say 5 out of 5 because, I mean, it's well executed. He did everything he set out to do when he recorded it. So, or not recorded it, wrote it.
I give a book 5 out of 5 if there is literally nothing I would change about the book itself. Like if there's nothing I would think that it needed to be changed, then it's obviously a 5 out of 5. Because if you're not going to change it, then why would it not be a 5? You know?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a good book. Read it if you like mythology. Those are my 2 cents.
I'll probably read it.
The next one is The Empire Strikes Back from a Certain Point of View. So this book was, I found out later, written for like a charity. Oh, yeah, all participating authors have generously foregone any compensation for their stories. So if you buy this to help that, I totally understand that. Outside of that, I was fairly let down with this book because I was like, 40 stories, man, within the realm of Empire Strikes Back. That sounds awesome. It's my favorite episode of the trilogy. Not great. The books are, the stories are technically well executed. Everything's well written. The editing is great. No real grammatical errors or spelling or anything like that. But it falls flat with simply what they chose to write about. So a lot of these stories are about ancillary characters who have no impact on the overall story of Empire Strikes Back, which makes sense because how are you going to influence a medium or a movie that came out, 50 years ago now? No, 40 years ago, something like that. So there's not a lot of space to move, but the people who chose, the vast majority of authors chose to write about characters who don't have any impact on anything. They're just basically reacting to a scenario and they act, and that's it. And it's not very interesting because, I don't know, I just thought it was boring, honestly. So the stories I did like, and I'll just name them off individually here real quick. The Final Order by Seth Dickinson. The First Lesson by Jim Zub. Tooth and Claw by Michael Cogg. That one's really cool. That has Bosk, the Trandoshan bounty hunter in it. Pretty cool. I've always liked the bounty hunters. Fake It Till You Make It. I thought that one was pretty entertaining. No Time for Poetry. That one was really good. And then Right Hand Man by Lydia King. So if you can find those stories maybe individually, check them out. Probably not. You can probably only find them in this book. But I imagine you can find this book, discounted somewhere, maybe like Amazon or a secondhand bookstore. So if you see it and you're interested in those stories, or maybe all of the stories for that matter, I'd recommend it. But for the retail price, I think it's $35. Yeah, US. I can't really recommend it. That's a lot of money for some people. And I definitely wouldn't spend $35 on this, knowing,
what you know now.
Yeah, hindsight's 20/20, right? Of course.
I'm the one that bought it for you, so.
Oh, I know, it was a gift for Christmas, and this one was a gift too. Dreamsongs by George R. Martin. These are short stories from him starting to write and first getting published. And so, as you could probably expect, a book that starts with the initial publishing of a writer, the stories are going to be fairly hit and miss. They're good, they were publishable at the time, but some of them just didn't really hit anything with me. But there are quite a few that are good, and it picks up, and I'll mention the stories by name real quick here too for this one, because there's so many. And there are 5 sections, and before each section, he talks about what was going on in his life and why he wrote this and what happened during the publication and all that. So that was really cool to read too. So that's a good part of the book that I really enjoyed. But the ones I enjoyed were The Hero, The Second King of Kind of Loneliness, With Morning Comes Mistfall, A Song for Laia. That one was kind of sad. Bitter Blooms, The Way of Cross and Dragon. If you've read Hyperion or any of its sequels, this story reminded me a lot of that type of space religion, high technology, mysticism, subterfuge kind of thing. It was very interesting. It's like they're like space Catholics, and the dragon is a different sect, and a guy is sent to investigate it. But it was a pretty cool story. I like that one. The Lonely Songs of Larendor, In the Lost Lands, Meat House Man. These are mostly horror stories, which were pretty good. Remembering Melody, Sand Kings, Night Flyers, The Monkey Treatment. That one was pretty entertaining. I would just had a morbid curiosity of what was going to happen to the guy, within the first few pages, because it's such a bizarre story, but pretty entertaining and weird. And then The Pear-Shaped Man, that one was also weird. So if you like horror or weird stories, definitely read those. But overall, really good. I would say this one. Oh, I didn't rate Empire Strikes Back, did I?
Nope.
Okay, real quick, I'll say that one was a 3 out of 5. And that's only because of the stories I liked. But back to Dreamsongs, I would say that I would give this an easy 4 out of 5. 4 out of 5, because the stories initially, I'm sure if I started writing and getting published, my stories probably wouldn't click with most people either. So some of them were just okay, but overall it was really good. I'd say 4 out of 5. I'd definitely recommend reading this if you're a fan of George R. R. Martin. The last 7 stories alone, to me, made it worth reading, so I would recommend it for sure. But those are all the books I read.
Well, technically, you've also read The Lies of Locke Lamora with me.
Well, I listened to the audiobook.
So, but this is a book that because we read it together this past month, we are going to do a video all by itself on this book. So we're not actually going to talk about it here. Spoiler alert, we both really, really enjoy it. This is a reread for me. This is a read for him. And we liked it. So we're going to talk about it in another video. But
regarding the audiobook version, the voice actor is very entertaining.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed him.
He does a good job.
And he changes his voice for all the characters separately, and it was really good. But I want to read the book version just because I also like doing that, whether I've heard the audiobook version or not.
Oh, that's funny, because that's what I read it the first time, and then I audioed it the second time for the same reason. I like doing both, especially if the person reading it is entertaining.
Yeah.
Okay, so that will be talked about in a different video.
Those are all my books. So overall, good reading experience.
Good month.
Yeah, it was okay. Yeah.
Okay, so The first one I'm going to talk about is called Throne of Glass, the very first one. It got a 4-star out of me. It's a Sarah J. Maas book. There we go. Look at that. So pretty. I like wet books. So, anyway, it's about an assassin. She goes to a competition to try to be the king's main assassin. So it's just about that competition and her. It was like a mysterious vibe going on in the background that I'm sure is throughout the series. So it's very magical, I would say. I liked it a lot. A lot of people say that the main character, her name is Selena, that she is very like a lot of talk, not a lot of action. But towards the end of the book, in the beginning, she couldn't do any action. She was freaking a prisoner, so there's not much she could do. But in the end, I feel like she's proven herself very, very well, that she is a lot of action.
Is this the first book in the series?
Yes.
Okay. Well, yeah, there's always that period where the author has to have that delicate balance of world building and establishing character and also the environment they're in and all that. So
she does do a lot of, if I could just destroy all these people in this room if I wanted to. She does do that.
Oh, so she's arrogant?
Yeah. She definitely is arrogant. But she's starting to go down a peg or two. That's her character. I think her character arc is going to be someone who feels like all these walls need to be put up, and slowly the people that she meets are going to start putting the walls down. So that way she had a really rough life. It was bad. So anyway, I gave this a 4 out of 5. It was a very good start to the series. I'm hoping that the rest of the books go along with it. So there's that. And the next one I read is called For Your Own Good. I love this book. I gave it a 4 out of 5 only because it's by Samantha Downing. I gave it a 4 out of 5 because the very ending of the book I felt like was kind of rushed. Like it was almost like she only had a couple pages left or something, and she was like, oh crap, I gotta finish this book. So she finished it off. But I still really, really enjoyed the ending. I liked the entire book as a whole. It was very, very entertaining for a thriller. Kind of surprised by that. In the aspect of there was actually humor to it. I really liked it. Apparently it's going to be a movie. I'll be looking forward to that. So, but For Your Own Good, I really, really liked it. It's about a teacher who feels like he needs to teach lessons. He needs to teach lessons to students and teachers for their own good. And there's multiple point of views in this book. I enjoyed all of them. I liked all the characters. It was a very good book. I highly recommend. The next one I listened to was The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up by Marie
Kondo.
And this book was, it's nonfiction. It's about tidying up. I guess I'll give it a 4 out of 5 because it was not all the things that I would actually do that she recommends. But, it's nonfiction. How can you rate nonfiction, really?
Doesn't she recommend, throwing away a bunch of your stuff?
Well, for instance, she says...
Almost minimalism?
She tells you that 30 books is...
Oh,
plenty.
yeah. You should only have so many books and then get rid of the rest.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't think anyone that maybe watches this video would agree with that.
Well, not only that, but when you watch the Netflix, she even said, there's one woman who has a bunch of books, and she's like, hold them, and if they give you joy, keep them. I'm like, all my books give me joy. What kind of crap is that?
Yeah, but at the same time, I saw the clip of that episode with you, or part of it, and her husband was pulling up books, and they were books I don't know that anyone would actually keep long term.
Yeah.
They're like workbooks and school books and stuff like that. Stuff
Textbooks.
You probably wouldn't refer back to.
So anyway, I give it a 4 out of 5. It's really motivating to listen to while you're cleaning the house, just so you know. In case you were curious on getting motivated, you should listen to this book as you do it. The next one that I read was called Desperate Measures. This book is being loaned to a friend right now. If you like a lot of spice, and I mean a lot.
What do you mean by spice? Like in food?
No, like in
sex?
Sexual relations.
Oh.
Then you will love this book. It is about Jafar and Jasmine, and they have a relationship.
See, when you say that, I picture the Jafar and the Jasmine from the movie, and I'm just like, I just don't see that happening.
No.
You know? I just,
Well, I did a little bit of research on, because I was doing the same thing, and it was just, I couldn't get past that. I did a little, like, Google search for, like, fan art, and that was a lot helpful.
oh, boy.
That helped a
Did
lot.
you go to Rule 34?
No.
Okay.
But, so I really actually enjoyed it.
If you don't know what Rule 34 is, look at that, like on Reddit or whatever, at your own peril.
You're going to get us canceled.
I'm not on anything, so I don't know I'm going to be canceled.
So Desperate Measures, I give it a 4 out of 5, easily. I really enjoyed it. If you're looking for some spice in your life, that'll give it to you. The next one that I read is called A Night on the Town by Hermione Moon. And I think it's a cute little look of a book. This is an Amazon exclusive series. This is the second of the series. It is about a witch, obviously, that in the present day, she is a baker. She puts all her like little magical spells in the baking that she does, and they help her customers like get braver.
I thought you already talked about this book.
Well, it's the first one. I've talked about the first one. This is the second one.
Oh.
So anyway. This is the second one. I gave it a 3 out of 5. It was entertaining enough. The thing is, though, it was very, like, Disney-esque. Like, it was a lot of... She's a grown woman. She's in her 30s, and she's got this guy now in this book, and, like, holding his hand was a big deal. Like, a really big deal.
Like, they're prudes?
Yeah.
Or she's
like,
a prude?
And maybe it's because, I just got done with Desperate Measures, and I was like, are you kidding me? Like, kissing him took the entire book. Oh. Meanwhile, she met him and started a relationship with him in the first book. So giving him a peck on the cheek was, like, halfway through.
Is she, like, Amish or something?
I don't know. I was just like, come on. So that was talked about a lot during their because it's a murder mystery kind of a thing, like whodunit. Mm-hmm. In every book, it's about a different murder. And so during their, like, investigation together, they do it together, and in amongst all that, she's like, should I give him a kiss on the cheek? I don't know. And, like, it's just, like, pages of that. And I'm just like, okay, well, that was fun. So, anyway, I don't know if I'll keep going along with the series. Like I said, it's an Amazon exclusive series. You have to only buy this off Amazon. I don't know if I'll go on.
Was it worth it, only having to shop on Amazon to get it?
Yeah. I mean, well, the first one I really enjoyed, but then she turns into, like, a 15-year-old girl who feels like getting pecked on the cheek is a big deal. So,
I don't know. That sounds like 12-year-old to me.
So anyway, so there's that. The next one, another disappointing, was called The Missing Years. This was a book that I borrowed from a friend. It's by Lexie, Elliott. I gave it a 2. I should have really given it a 1 now that I really think about it, because...
Tell us why.
It was supposed to be like, kind of like ghosty, like spooky-ish kind of books. This woman inherits this house, and she's trying to decide whether or not to sell it. She moves into it with her sister. She's trying to decide whether or not she should sell it. It's like a house that she grew up in. There's a lot of family history with this town, with her family and this town. Her father is not well liked, and her father leaves her at a very, very young age, and she hasn't heard from him, but yet the house was inherited by her and her father, and so she can't sell it right off because her father has to have the signature, but she hasn't seen or spoken to him in years. So then she has to, like, claim his death because she hasn't seen or heard from him. No one has seen or heard from him in 10 or 15 years, whatever the number is, I don't know.
Oh, so he left her paying the taxes and everything?
Yeah, pretty much. Last. Anyway, so it's supposed to be a spooky book. And there were spooky parts of it, but they were so far and few between, it was pretty dang boring. And honestly, I think this is the writing, because at one point in time, she wants the character to look up at the top window and see something like, was that a figure? Was that a ghost? What was that? But to get to that point of her looking up at her own house, up at the top window, she talks about this cat that has no relevance to the rest of the story, walking along, jumping up on the gate, jumping back down, and when it jumped up, that's when she looks it up. And then she continues talking about this cat, and it's like hunting styles and what it's going after, and is it going after anything? And she can't tell. It's just like, oh, droning on. And yeah, and it's like, this is a cat that's never brought up again. And it's obvious that you just wanted her to look up. Just make her look up. I skipped a lot of it. Like I breezed through a lot of chapters, like really, really, really fast, just so I could find out what happened in the end. And in the end, it was just like, oh, well, that wouldn't have been worth it. And it was like 400-page book. I'm glad I didn't read all of it.
When Kendra gets bored, she starts skimming pages. So
Very
that's
quickly.
that's not a good sign for a reader for anybody's book, I don't think.
No. So that was just So that was, and then the next one was Piranesi. It is a very, very short book. I don't have that either because I'm waiting for the paperback because I think the paperback is prettier.
I thought you didn't like it, though.
No, I liked it. Well, I gave it a 3 out of 5, which I consider 3 good. A 3 is right in the middle, so like it did its job. But it is a very, you have to understand going into this book that you are going to be completely confused about 3/4 through the book, because it does not explain itself at all. This is about this guy who's in this maze, and that's all you know. How he got there, you don't know. What's going on around him, you don't know.
See, that's why I don't think we can trust, you should be able, or I don't like trusting the word of somebody on, say, like Amazon reviews for a book like that, because I've looked at the reviews for Piranesi, and they say things like, this book is amazing, and it has everything, and whatnot, and then you talk to somebody who's actually read the book, and it's just kind of like, it was all right, unless specific reasons. Whereas on Amazon, the reviews are so generic. I wouldn't even say they're reliable. I mean, like with movies, you should probably just see it yourself and see if you like it or not.
Well, this was a book club pick, and people really enjoyed it. I don't know. I don't like being lost for that long throughout the book. That's all. It's just, I like the idea of starting out and being lost as a reader and being part of, I guess, the lostness of it all. But it's like that, like 3/4 of the way of the book. And so sometimes it was hard to pick it back up, because I was just like, okay, I'm going to be lost for a couple of hours. Here we go. So, but I still enjoyed it. I liked the main character, Piranesi, a lot. He is definitely a character that I would like to hang out with and talk to and hang out, have good times with. He was a very, very lovable character, but he is what saved the book for sure. Like, he was what made the book enjoyable because of his character and his thought process.
When a book does that I've read, I usually just, there's a good chance I'm just going to stop reading it.
Well, it's a good thing for me it was Audible, because you know how I am. I like go really, really fast in Audible, and so I was able to, and the book is already a very small book, so I was able to end it make it go quicker than I would have if I read it.
Well, yeah, she listens to Audible at like 1.7 speed or something crazy, so they sound like chipmunks depending on who's reading the books.
Well, the next and last book that I read was called Ugly Love by Colleen Hoover. It was I gave it a 5 out of 5 because I enjoyed this book immensely. Maybe it should be a 4.5, only because there are 2 point of views. The Miles and then the girl's name, which is Tate. I like Tate's point of view. It's supposed to be present point of view. And then Miles apparently has the inability to love someone again. He won't allow himself to be in love with someone ever again. Like, he won't pretty much allow himself to be happy ever again. So you go back, in his point of view, it's the history of why that is the case in present point of view. And so he's never had a problem with it before until Tate. And so now he has the issue of trying to fight the fact to be happy again with Tate, because he doesn't feel like he deserves it.
Oh, he's afraid of being in love or something. Mm-hmm.
He's in high school, and so there's a lot of high schoolish. She does a very good job of being like in a point of view of a high school boy. And so even though it was enjoyable to read at first, it kind of drags itself out, I feel like, until the moment of what happened. Obviously, there's a moment of what happens to him that makes him be the way he is now. So that moment that just be prepared, because there's a reason why it's called Ugly Love. Anyway, Tate's point of view, though, I really enjoyed this book. I like that Tate was able to make this man be a better man in the end and make him realize that he can be happy and he should be happy. I liked this book a lot. I enjoyed it immensely. And I liked both Tate and Miles. There was a lot of, when you read about this book, apparently there's a lot of people who are like, Miles is mean, Miles is a jerk. I can't believe that she's allowing herself to be treated this way. And then it's like, okay, well then did you read the finishing of the book? Because it's obvious why this man is the way he is. And
Traumatized in
yes,
some way. Yeah,
yes.
people don't understand that even with real or fictional, trauma has a lasting effect on
yes.
people. You know,
And this scenario would have definitely
whether it's like PTSD or childhood trauma. Like
Yeah.
when I taught for 3 years, man, the school I taught at was basically mostly traumatized kids in one fashion or another. But yeah, I mean, it's a lasting effect on you.
I thought it did a very good job of showing that throughout the book. I thought it was great. So that's my opinion.
Maybe people should be more empathetic to others. You know, try to put yourself in their shoes for once instead of judging or criticizing.
Right.
Try to empathize with them.
There's our books. I'm done with mine. You're done with yours.
It was a good month. I think more forward to this month. You know, the graphic novel. I'm reading a few different genres and mediums, so pretty excited about that. I didn't mention this in the last video because I did it on a spur of the moment thing, but I'm almost done listening to the audio version of The Star Is My Destination 2 by Alfred Bester. It's an old sci-fi story, so that's really good. I'll probably talk about that in our September wrap-up. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, he's finally getting to Audible. So, well, Audible books.
This is on Scribd. Scribd? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you can find free books on there you can download and listen to.
So we're done.
Yep. Thanks for watching.
Bye.
Catch you guys later.